universe. They want you to present and explore the mysteries. Don't reduce them to mechanisms. They believe that reducing things to mechanism steals the meaning and value and preciousness and richness out of life. And that's one of the reasons they've been unhappy with modernity. So they want to hear about the gospel as a holistic thing. They don't want you to make it small. They want you to make it big. They don't want you to make it simple. They want you to let all the mystery show. And they want to see that you celebrate and revere the sacredness of that mystery. It's an analytical world. Analysis means understanding something by breaking it down into its parts. And so what do? We take the Bible and break it into testaments, and testaments into books, and books into chapters, and chapters into verses, and verses into sentences, and sentences into clauses, and clauses into phrases, and phrases into words, and words into roots, prefixes, and suffixes. And you know you've heard a good sermon when you get a lot of Greek and Latin roots and prefixes and suffixes. But, and of course, there's value to that. There are things that you understand by breaking things down, but there are things you will never understand by breaking things down. For example, if you're a lover of animals, there are things you can understand in an animal by killing it and dissecting it. But there are a lot of things you will never understand by killing it and dissecting it, like what it's like, how it lives, what its habits are. So there's and what the environment is that it lives in and how it interacts with that larger environment. When you break things from wholes into parts, you never look at how that whole fits into larger wholes. And so we move into a world that's post-analytical. How do we design a post-analytical sermon? How do we look at the Bible in a post-analytical way? We're beginners at this. We're just starting. And it's going to be exciting. And I think we should enjoy the journey of figuring that out. It's a world that's secular and scientific. It always puts the spiritual versus the scientific. There's always a versus between faith and science. But now we move into a world that's both spiritual and scientific. And now, instead of fighting evolution versus creation, we need to start doing some theologizing on evolution. If evolution is partly or largely true, what would that mean? Let's offer theological reflection on it. Let's explore it in that way. This is important both from the science side and from the faith side. For example, I'm very interested in the issue of ecology. Anybody who works in ecology, who's aware of what incredible threats our environment is under because of human interference, anybody who's aware of that realizes that you are not going to bring the kind of changes in civilizations that you need unless you can bring changes in people. And those changes in people involve changes in values and meaning, and that requires religion. So the scientific world is interested in us religious people getting our act together. They're reaching out to us. And meanwhile, we're reaching out to them as well. And it's very, very exciting new possibilities that could happen there. Then there's objective. Oh, by the way, there's so much about this that we better wake up to. If we're going to be stuck in arguments of the 19th century when we're in the 21st, we're going to miss the boat. Listen, folks, psychopharmacology, all this, the relationship between drugs and the relationship of chemistry to the brain, if we don't pay attention to that pretty fast, let me say it this way. We all know that there's Viagra. But what if we develop an anti-Viagra? Now, the market for that hasn't been too big, But if we develop an anti-Viagra, which they have, but let's say they develop a very effective one, will we say to all of our 13-year-old boys, listen, you'll be a much better Christian if you take this pill once a day till you turn 24 and get married or something? Will that make them a better Christian? And what about if we have an anger pill? We already do. What if we have a sadness pill? We already do. What if we have a fear pill? I just saw on CNN this morning they developed a fear pill now. What if we can have pills for love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control? Will that make us better Christians? How do we deal with that? Those are not theoretical questions. Those are questions that already are on our doorstep. Huge issues there. So we have a need for dialogue rather than a versus between faith and science. A world that moves from objective to intersubjective. I don't have time to say anything about that. A world that moves from critical to post-critical. So when we do evangelism in the modern world, we go up to people and we critique their religion. Oh, you're a Buddhist. Let me tell you what's wrong with Buddhism. Oh, you're an atheist. Let me tell you why atheists are fools. I saw a bumper sticker on the back of a car 2 days ago. Here it was. Atheist Day, April 1st. Oh, that'll win a lot of people to Christ, you know. That's great evangelism tool. That's not evangelism. That's intimidation. That's insult. Why would anybody put a billboard? Who is that helping? It's helping the person who wears it. It's making him feel big and tough. It's like wearing a leather jacket when you're in junior high school. It's like wearing the hottest new tennis shoes when you're in. It's like wearing your pants down your butt. If it's being hip and cool. It's critical. We move into a world where we're aware that Muslims and Jews and Christians, the three monotheistic religions, are threatening to blow up the world, are threatening to destroy the world, and that religion is seen as one of the most dangerous, destructive forces in the world. And if you come across as another angry, argumentative religious person, it doesn't matter if you're right, because you're evil and you're dangerous, you see. So how do we talk about the faith in a post-critical world? It's very hard for Christians who've been so influenced by revivalism, because revivalism was not really evangelism. Revivalism was revitalization of nominal semi-Christians. And we think we've been doing evangelism for a few hundred years. We haven't been. We've been doing revitalization. And it's appropriate in revitalization to preach up hard and spit and yell and sweat and everything else and tell people how bad they are. That's pretty appropriate for rebellious, cantankerous, lazy people. But for people who are harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd, you don't go beating them up. You try to lead them to some greener pastures. Post-critical. World of organization to a world of alliance and network. A lot we could say about that. It relates to being post-denominational. Next slide, please. A world of individualism where the gospel is purely seen as information on how to get individual souls into heaven after they die. It has almost nothing to say about our tribes and our communities and our nations and our globe. Boy, do we have work to do here, because the biblical gospel is a gospel that starts about the world and has something to say about me as part of it. Our gospel is all about me and has very little to say about the world as a whole. A huge issue. A Protestant polemical gospel to a post-Protestant gospel. I don't know what would come after a consumerist gospel, but I hope we can start to realize how consumerist our gospel is. It's like a product that we sell and market and commodify, which is why the great way to keep people away from an event is to associate the word evangelism with it, because nobody likes it. Non-Christians don't like it, Christians don't like it, because it's been associated with sales. It feels cheap for everybody. But we've got to rediscover a post-consumerist way of life, and this has unbelievable ramifications on every different level. And the only hope I have for a power that's greater than consumerism is the power of Jesus Christ to change the world and give us another way to live. So much we could say about this. A world that is focused on print literacy, so everything is linear, long, extended linear arguments, to a world that consists of a multi-layered fluency, kind of like when you go to a web page and you know that if you click on that highlighted word, there's another web page behind it, and there's another page behind that, and there's layers and layers of truth that are all true at the same time. And to have the idea that the best way to get to truth is through a linear argument, that's just, well, you know, we call these people, we say that they have a disorder, we say that they have ADD, attention deficit disorder, when the fact is, no, it's not that they have attention deficit disorder, they just have a capacity to bring in information at such a high speed. It's like they've got a T1 port in their brain, and we're hitching up a little telephone wire, and we say, what's wrong with you? You don't seem interested. In a world that's national and focused around God and country, to a world that really cares about the whole globe and is constantly involved with migration. So much we could say about this. I'd just like to close with a poem. If you go to the next slide. Poem by a woman in the 1930s. Great poet. Listen to this. She captures modernity. It's almost prophetic because she's foreseeing a moon landing. She says, upon this age that never speaks its mind, this furtive age, this age endowed with power to wake the moon with footsteps, to fit an oar into the rowlocks of the wind and find what swims before his prow and what swirls behind. Upon this gifted age in this dark hour rains from the sky a meteoric shower of facts. They lie unquestioned, uncombined. Wisdom enough to leach us of our ill is daily spun, but there exists no loom to weave